Join us in a salute to the flag.
Hold on one second.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2014 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2013, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mrs. Larrier? Here. Mrs. Leventhal? Here. Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all public meetings of the public body be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas desire this governing body to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in a formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and the discussions of the governing body at all of its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mrs. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 2nd meeting of the Maplewood Township Committee. Let's see what we have here on the agenda. Always afraid to say it's a short one, but it is.
Don't jinx it.
I could jinx it.
Don't.
We're going to start with our first public comment period, and after that, we'll have a hearing on the milling and paving of Van Ness Terrace using the Community Development Block Grant. Mr. Manning, you're going to have that? You're going to hold that hearing? Yes. Okay. After that, we will have our December Board of Health meeting. Then we have an ordinance that we'll be considering on final passage, and this is to create 20-minute parking in front of 195 Maplewood Avenue, which is going to be the home of the new post office. We'll be introducing a new ordinance which resolves any confusion regarding structures and land and code enforcement in the township. And we'll also be introducing another new ordinance which makes some amendments to the design review standards for the village, Maplewood Village Special Improvement District and the Springfield Avenue Partnership Special Improvement District. After that, we have two discussion items. First is the post office redevelopment plan, and the second is proposed user fees for the Woodland, and we're also going to have recommendations beyond that from the Finance Committee regarding our budget hearings in January. We'll have our consent agenda, which is we have a couple of resolutions, bills and claims, a resolution to apply for the Community Development Block Grant Program to mill and pave Van Ness Terrace. We have approval of the minutes of November 5th as amended and November 17th, and approval of the closed minutes from November 17th. We'll have our second public comment after that, reports from departments, administrative reports, reports from elected officials. So right now, we're going to invite anyone who would like to address the Township Committee to come on up. And you can have double time because we fooled you last month when you came to the meeting.
I should read every word.
And we were in Atlantic City.
I'll spare you. Good evening. For the record, I'm Deborah Collins, Director of Small Business Development and Affirmative Action for the County of Essex. I'm also the county's liaison to the Township of Maplewood. And here are this evening's announcements. Before I begin with these announcements, I would like to share with the public that we are offering our final seminar, we, meaning the Office of Small Business Development, final seminar for small, woman-owned, minority, and LGBTQ businesses, and it will be held this Thursday from 10 a.m. to noon at McLuhan's Boathouse Restaurant. The title is Crafting and Perfecting the Elevator Pitch. So if you're a fan of the Shark Tank, as I am, and you actually believe that you have about 40 seconds to create a lasting first impression, come join us. We'll teach you how to do so. That number to call if you're interested in registering, we still have a few seats open, is 973-621-2011. That's 973-621-2011. Join us for the elevator pitch. And here are the other announcements for this evening. The County Executive and the Board of Chosen Freeholders invite you to holiday candlelight tours. Take a guided tour during the holidays at Essex County's Kipps Castle Park. December 4th, 11th, and 18th, those are Thursdays, $5 entrance fee. Registration is required, and the tours begin at 7 p.m. It's absolutely beautiful. Space is limited. We meet at the front door of the castle building, and we'll hope to see you there. If you'd like more information, please call 973-239-2465. That's 973-239-2465. We also invite you to attend our Holiday Light Spectacular. The admission is free, and it's now until December 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, December 12th to January 4th. It's at the Essex County South Mountain Recreation Complex. That's Turtleback Zoo, 560 Northfield Avenue, West Orange. Sponsored by PSC&G, Covanta Energy, Zoological Society of New Jersey, and the Essex County Parks Foundation, though we do ask that you donate non-perishable food items, unwrapped toys, and new and gently used winter coats for the needy. Please join us. Let's see, there's also a holiday at Kipps Castle, which I've mentioned, home for the holidays, so I'll move on from there. There are a number of activities going on at our environmental center, wonderful, wonderful programs for children. This is what we call our Winter 2014-2015 public programs. I'll just speak about a few of them taking place in December. Little Explorers Winter Nature Program, Wednesdays, December 10th and 17th. Let's see, what else do we have? The Bug Club, Tuesdays, December 9th, January 13th, February 10th, and Kids in the Kitchen Club, Wednesdays, December 31st, January 28th, February 25th. For our announcements for the evening, I would be happy to take any questions you may have or concerns that I may carry back to respective departments or the county executive himself.
I would like you to speak to the engineer about the intersection of Valley and Tuscan. It is getting pretty chopped up there, and also we need some striping.
Chopped up?
And striping.
Okay.
The left turn lane that the stripe for that is worn off.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else? Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Again, sorry for the confusion at the last meeting.
Hope you had a productive stay.
We did. We learned a lot down there. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the Township Committee? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close the first public comment and we'll be back later in case anyone wants to speak to us. We now have a hearing on the milling and paving of the entire street Van Ness Terrace Community Development Block Grant Program. Mr. Manning?
Yes, this is the second and final hearing on our Community Development Block Grant 2015 application to repave Van Ness Terrace. The proposed project calls for the construction of new roadway pavement on the full length of Van Ness Terrace. The pavement course will consist of a mill and overlay in lieu of a more expensive reconstruction. No sidewalks will be repaired except for ADA compliant ramps needed at intersections. New striping will be done. The project will begin in February 2014 and be completed by July 2015. The project will cost about $157,000. And if anyone has any questions, now is the time to come up and ask them about the project. I also have a sign-in sheet for anyone here, so that if you wouldn't mind just giving us your signature and address so we can record that.
Anyone have any questions on the proposed milling and paving of the entire stretch of Van Ness Terrace? Looks like no one, so this is our second
And final.
and final hearing, and later on we'll be passing a resolution making the application for the funds.
Submitting it, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'm going to pass this around up there if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay, our next up is our December Board of Health meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law, 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by the mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2014 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2013, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Mr. Brownlee?
Here.
Mayor DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. Leventhal? Here. Mr. Ryan?
Here.
Mrs. Larrier?
Here, thank you.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires all meetings of public bodies be open to the public, and whereas Section 7 provides that the Maplewood Board of Health has the discretion to prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting, and whereas it is our, the Maplewood Board of Health, to comply with the provisions of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Health of the Township of Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the Board of Health by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the Board of Health at all of its regular meetings.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. And welcome to the December 2nd Board of Health meeting. Can I take a motion to accept the minutes?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Rowe, can we hear your report?
Just a couple of items are the Affordable Health Care Program sign-up. Programs are in full swing now, both at the main library and the Hilton Library. So there's multiple opportunities for people to sign up, particularly on Saturday mornings. If people are working during the week, they can go to the Hilton Library between 10 and 12, and there'll be personnel there to help people sign up or change their plan or revise their plan if need be. So thanks to the library for all their help on that, and we're working with two different sign-up organizations, so thanks to them for providing that service. We already had one meet with the Furry Hearts Rescue Group. We're having another meeting tomorrow to keep the project moving forward. I emailed you late this afternoon about some baseline readings and data points that I see that we can gather for the coming year, and also goals for the coming year. So I hope that helps satisfy some concerns that we've had over the project.
You have hard copies of that?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. I saw it on the training.
On here, but I'll take it. Thank you. At some point, we would need to formalize these, yes?
Pardon?
At some point, we would need these to be formalized, and because this is, I mean, once you get this data.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to do when I meet with the Furry Hearts group tomorrow is advise them what we're going to be looking for, and I think it'll be generally along these lines, but if you see something you would like to add to it, please let me know.
I think when I was looking for this, looking through this earlier, you did not add, somehow surveying the cats that we have
Yeah.
in town. So that we spoke about this, so that will need to be incorporated in that, because it's not just what the cost is, it's also how many cats we have. And we know that's not going to be decreased right away or even in the next 2 or 3 years, but we need to at least be able to trend it. So at your next meeting, I would ask that you come up with a way to get that data.
Okay.
Will the survey of the cats be by phone or in person?
We were thinking a paper survey.
More like a sand survey paper, right?
I think the big difference in dog licenses and cat licenses reflects how little we know about this
cats.
issue.
Any other questions?
I was actually just going to reiterate that point, that should be baseline measurement number one.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to reiterate that point, that should be baseline measurement number one. And as I mentioned previously, we should be getting that number, not asking them to give us that number.
Well, I'm asking Mr. Rowe.
Yeah,
Get it.
I'm saying us, not we, the Township Committee. I'm saying we, not Furry
The
Hearts.
township, yes, Mr. Rowe will be getting that. However, I have no illusion that Furry Hearts won't be somehow involved in helping him, but he would certainly be responsible for that number.
Okay, but I want us to do the actual count. That's what I said before.
Okay.
We'll try to figure out a way to do it. And I don't know the answer right now, but
Right.
we'll work
No,
on it.
that, I mentioned it a number of months ago, so and you said you were able to do it, so I'm still expecting that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Not about
Okay.
that, but I have something else for
Yes.
Mr. Rowe. Mr. Rowe, the owner of the Parkwood Diner is interested in doing a Christmas dinner for seniors.
Oh.
And I was thinking of doing something over at Irvington Avenue Seniors.
Okay.
And you have contacts there?
Yes, I do.
All right, could you and I work on that and get to the contacts to see if they're interested in pulling together? Because they have a kitchen there and the dining room there, and if he's looking to prepare stuff in the diner and bring it over there to serve it to the seniors, so,
I think that's very nice, yes. Okay.
okay?
I'll reach out to him, and I'll try to do it tomorrow and get word back to you and
Okay,
to meet at the diner.
okay, great.
Very nice of him.
And then we can let other seniors know, but I think having it there would also be good. It kind of addresses some unmet needs over there, probably. We can pick a date, before, the week before Christmas or Christmas, probably the week before Christmas or something. I can work it out with Pete. Okay, thank you.
Good.
Any other questions? I just have one more thing. At some point within the next quarter, I think we should make more headway on our clinics. We were going to try and do them for initially the Haitian population,
Yes.
and I'd like to see some movement on that.
Okay.
Only because I don't see it in your report here.
Okay. We did flyers in Creole. Perhaps we could find I'll look for a better way to distribute them. We just did distribute them to houses of worship and places, not the official places, but all sorts of groups in town. And so we'll continue to look for ways to do that.
There's, on Saturday mornings at the Jacoby Street branch of the Bank of America, there's a large Haitian population that they do their banking there.
Right, right.
So I'm sure they would be willing to work with us. And we might even think about, doing some standing down there, getting the information out when the weather's a little warmer.
Yeah, maybe we could
But,
have our clinic right at the bank.
So it's possible to do something there.
Okay.
Yeah. They actually do have room to do something like that.
Yeah.
In the back there, they don't use the whole thing, so,
That would be interesting, yeah.
yeah.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have
could
some,
I-
okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to reemphasize that point because I don't want to get that point lost, and I don't want to belabor the point. But again, I want us to be able to collect the numbers, and I just want to say that
The township.
township,
Township.
yes.
I think we were clear.
No, because again, when I'm looking at some of the goals, like one of the goals is 100% of the cats are spayed, neutered, vaccinated, and ear-tipped. So I would want us to be able to determine that number, not for them to tell us that number, because otherwise it's conflict of interest. So we need to be able to independently ascertain that number, if that's one of the goals. Otherwise,
These
have
are
no control over it.
in the feral cat colonies. Okay.
yeah, basically any of the numbers that we're talking about here.
Okay. Right.
Okay. Any other questions? If there's nothing else, I think
I have a
Mr.
presentation.
Manning
Yes,
has
thank you.
something to...
Robert Sear, Mr. Rowe, want to congratulate you on 25 years of service to the township. Here's your medal. Congratulations. Thank you for all your hard work. I just wanted to, 25 years. 25 years. Looks like a baby. But thank you very much. He cannot make our actual ceremony next meeting, so I wanted to make sure that he got it in time. Right?
That's very nice.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. And thank you, Mr. Manning. I will, at this point, we have our public comment segment. This is the time when anyone, any member of the public who wants to address the Board of Health should come forward and address the Board of Health. If not, seeing no one, I will close our public comment segment.
Move to adjourn the Board of Health meeting?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back to item 8. On the main agenda, we have an ordinance on final passage.
Yes, Mayor, ordinance on final passage. Ordinance number 2763-14 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 257 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance will establish 20-minute parking on Maplewood Avenue in the area of 195 Maplewood Avenue, the new post office location, and create a limited-time loading zone on Maplewood Avenue in front of 195 Maplewood Avenue for post office delivery and pickup.
This ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing no one, literally no one in the audience, we'll close the public hearing. And Ms. Leventhal, can we get a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Second. Oops, sorry.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, that's right. We'll give you his number 10 here.
No, it's okay, really.
We have an introduction of a new ordinance.
Yes, Mayor, ordinance number 2764-14, an ordinance to amend Chapter 203 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Property Maintenance. This ordinance will resolve any confusion concerning the requirement to maintain structures and lands within the Township of Maplewood.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes, I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading, its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record, and a hearing to be held on December 16th.
Mr. Brownlee?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Desiderio, could you just, in a couple of words, say what we're doing here?
Yes, Mayor. Basically, it was brought to my attention, I guess, the Code Enforcement Committee, that there was some language issues with regard to the maintenance of occupied homes versus vacant properties. So in order to eliminate any confusion, there's an amendment to the language so that the maintenance of properties will apply not only to vacant houses, but also to those that are occupied.
Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Mr. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. The, another ordinance on introduction.
It's Mayor Ordinance Number 2765-14. It's an ordinance to amend Chapter 237 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Special Improvement Districts. This ordinance will adopt certain amendments to the design review standards for both the Maplewood Village Special Improvement District and the Springfield Avenue Partnership Special Improvement District as recommended by the respective boards of each Special Improvement District.
Mr. Brownlee, would you like to introduce this?
No, you let Jerry do it. Really, I'm fine.
Mr. Ryan?
Before I introduce it, we should just clarify this has already been discussed by and vetted by the planning board, correct?
I'm sorry?
This has already been discussed by and approved by the planning board, as I recall.
The answer is yes to the first part, no. The formal approval, it has to go back to them.
Right.
Okay, it's been discussed, it's been reviewed. They had made some suggestions. Those suggestions were incorporated in the revisions, but it will now go back to them for final review pursuant to statute.
Great. I move the passage of this ordinance on first reading. Its publication according to law in the Maplewood South Orange News Record. The hearing to be held on December 16th, 2014. Thank you.
Leventhal?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. And you'll send this out tomorrow to them and hopefully have it on their agenda for next week.
They do. I already spoke to Mr.
Okay,
Wilson.
good.
He's aware of it, yes.
All right. I don't know how long it's going to take because it's the same thing that they've reviewed before, so.
He does not think it will take long.
Okay. We have two discussion items. The first is the Post Office redevelopment plan, recommendations from the Economic Development Committee. Just wanted to give the public an update of where we are with the development of the post office. The Economic Development Committee had a meeting with the developer, JMF Developed Properties, and we've been moving the process along. Our attorneys have been meeting with their attorneys to draft redevelopment papers and agreements. We've entered into an escrow with them where they've provided us with $25,000 to cover the professional fees that we're incurring for the development plan. We've talked with the developer about the possibility of looking at the building and maybe making a few changes to some of the regulations that we have in the plan. We told the developer that that process has to include the Maplewood Village Alliance Design Review Team. There's going to be a meeting scheduled for next week with the developer and the design review team to talk about some of those changes. We're also looking at potential traffic flow changes. We're not real sure yet, but looking at with the cars going behind the building, how that actually will work, whether it'll be one way, two ways. There will be parking in the basement. The developer has assured us that the basement parking will be able to handle the residential component there, and there'll also be parking in the back. This will be new parking, and that'll be for shoppers and any overflow for the residential. The expectation is that after the meeting with the Maplewood Village Alliance Design Review Committee next week, the Economic Development Committee will meet with the developer again on December 17th, and we hope to have everything put into place so that in January we'll be able to approve any changes that we intend to make in the plan and move that process further along. Changes here and the plan have to go to the planning board and then brought back here. So we're hoping that we can get that done in January. The post office is still moving on February 15th. They have started work at 195 Maplewood Avenue, and it is our understanding that they should be completed by the 15th of February. So that's where we are. Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Second is user fees at the Woodland. This is going to be a little bit broader. It's going to be a recommendation of the Finance Committee, and the first item is proposed user fees for the Woodland. The Finance Committee met last week or week before, and we reviewed some proposals. We reviewed a proposal for rates for the Woodland, and the Woodland is the former Women's Club, and these were rates that were put together by the Recreation Department and our Supervisor of Cultural Affairs, and basically there's we're talking about a per hour rate for weekend and weekdays. There's a non-resident and a resident rate. There's a cheaper rate for residents. There's also a cheaper rate, a discount rather, for nonprofits and nonprofits that are based and serving people in Maplewood and South Orange. It gets a resident nonprofit, and then there's a non-resident nonprofit. So we have these proposals. We need something in place. We're not going to be able to get this done in an ordinance form in time for the balance of the year. What we want to do is get a motion based on the recommendation of the Finance Committee to move forward with these proposed rates so that we will have something to use in the month of December, and then we will formalize it in an ordinance when we do fees in 2015. So essentially we're talking about a non-resident rate, a resident rate, and a nonprofit rate. And there's a rate for the Great Hall and a rate for the parlor. The Great Hall being the auditorium and the parlor being the upstairs. Just to give you a sense, a weekend hourly rate for a non-resident would be $225. That's per hour for the Great Hall. For the parlor, a non-resident weekend per hour would be $110. For a resident, the weekend per hour rate would be $145 as opposed to $225, and that's the Great Hall. And for the parlor, the per hour rate on the weekend would be $70 as opposed to $110. And then nonprofits would be even cheaper than that, would go down to $95 if it's a resident, and $45 that's for the Great Hall, and $45 for the parlor. There are some other charges here about if you're going to serve alcohol. There's a surcharge. For the parlor is $150, $250 for the Great Hall. There's a 4-hour minimum on weekends starting after 1 o'clock. There's a discount for fundraising events. A weekend is Friday to Sunday, and you get an hour setup time and things like that. If there needs to be extra staff, there's a fee of $25 per hour. So what we'd like to do, and what we're recommending, the Finance Committee is recommending, is that we move this on a motion form for the balance of 2014, and then move. And actually, let me ask you a question: if we, Mr. Desiderio, if we move it on a motion, will it stay in effect until it's replaced by an ordinance?
Stay in effect when?
Until it's replaced by an ordinance.
No, it'll expire on December 31st, but on
Okay.
January 1st, or first meeting in January,
We
you
can
can
just do it
pass this
again.
resolution again.
Okay. So if we could get a motion so that our our staff can start using these rates, that would be helpful.
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion?
I know that at the Public Safety Committee meeting, we were going to take up the question of the police presence in the alcohol thing, so that's
gonna
not
be
relevant
out.
to what we're...
Right, that's 2 question marks, so that's still going to be
Okay.
dealt with.
All right.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes. Just a couple other things. We want to let everyone know that our revenues and expenditures are on track. Our tax collection rate at this point is 99%, according to our chief financial officer, which is really good, because that does have a bearing on our amount that we have to reserve for uncollected taxes. We did talk about our budget schedule for next year. Typically, we have met 3 half Saturdays, and what we talked about, just as an idea, was to see if we can consolidate that into 2 meetings as opposed to 3, which would mean a longer meeting. It might entail an all-day meeting and a half-day meeting, or it might entail 2 3/4-day meetings. And I wanted to get a sense from particularly Mr. Ryan and Ms. Leventhal, who are not on the committee, about your preferences. Yes, you are on the committee. Who was not on the committee? Mrs. Larry. That's right, you were on the committee, sorry. Your preferences of whether we would meet 3 half Saturdays or 1 all-day Saturday and maybe another half Saturday, or 2 Saturdays and break it up like 3/4 time.
You're asking me?
Both of you, because you were not on the committee.
I would prefer 3 half Saturdays or 2 whole Saturdays, right? That's
Right.
what you're saying?
Roughly.
I would prefer roughly 2 whole Saturdays.
Right?
Fewer meetings would be better, of course, depending on the actual scheduling of it, but, having 2 3/4-day meetings is better than having 3 half-day meetings in the field.
Okay. And I think we're looking at right now the 10th and the 31st.
Yes.
Okay? And so we'll work on making them 2 3/4 meetings. So the roughly would go from probably 9 to 2 or something like that, or 9.
And then when we have additional business on that, we usually incorporate it right into the Township Committee meeting on a
Correct.
regular night.
Right. And if we need another meeting, we can always do it in February. But the other thing is we're going to do this year is a little bit different. We are going to allow folks at home to send in questions through the internet. So they'll be able to email questions in. So that means that at the end of every department's presentation, we're going to have a question period. Not for comments, but for questions. It'll be similar to someone who gives testimony at a planning board meeting where you can ask questions, you can't make comments. But there might be people in the audience and there will be people home who might have a particular question about the public works presentation or the police presentation, and they'll be able to ask those questions immediately following the presentation. I think this will allow folks to be a little more engaged, and if we get no questions, then that'll be fine too. But we'll work that out, we'll advertise it, and we'll have a way of getting those questions in and asked as part of the process of the hearing. Lastly, just 2 other things, I'm sorry. One of the things we also did is we talked about pilot payments, and we are on track with the Maplewood Commons this year to get roughly $277,700 in pilot payment for that, and it should go up in 2015. Because for part of 2014, one of the buildings was not open. So we think that'll be more going in, although that's based on construction, right? So
we actually can give you a number.
yeah,
Joe, I handed it to you.
because I have a 344 is the,
Yeah, but if you take the, because that was broken out, if you take 87,863 and multiply it by 4, that should be the payment.
good luck, about 360. Yeah, 350, 360. So we'll expect that in 2015. So that's something we're on it. That is a process where our accountants look at their work. We send it back to them. Their accountants look at it, and so it's a third-party review. And this is how we'll move forward.
Yeah.
This is really our first pilot with a private developer. So.
Yeah, I spoke to Mr. Cecchio today, and he has reviewed it. I actually gave copies of the report, which I had just received, to Mr. Manning, and he will give them to the CFO, and they'll make a calculation. But I spoke to Mr. Cecchio, who represents the developer. They're fine with it. Now, that payment will go up on the same percent, as I understand it, the same
Yes.
percentage as our
As our
tax rate
taxes.
goes up. So
Yes.
if our tax rate goes up,
2%.
like 0.75%, then
Yes.
then that payment will go up 0.75%. Well, you have to think positive.
That's good. That's good. We'll work on it. Those Saturdays when we're cold here, we'll remember that. The last thing I wanted to say is we talked before about having a fee refund fee. People who pay us a fee now to rent a municipal facility. Sometimes they cancel, and there's a cost involved, so we're going to have a charge of $5 if the rental fee is less than $100, and a cost of $10 if the fee is $100 or more. And that will be introduced in 2015 as part of our fee ordinance. So if you rent the community center and then cancel, and the rent was $60, then we'll keep $5 for processing.
Would that be the same if, for instance, we had staff that had to be there, or there was extra staff that?
Typically,
Typically doesn't happen. Happens
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Happens before. Generally what happens is, and the reason we're doing this charge is that we don't really have a problem where people cancel at the last minute. Sometimes they do, but more that they cancel, and they've already paid the fee, we've deposited, we put it into our bookkeeping and all that, then we have to process a refund. There's a whole series of paperwork that goes, a purchase order, you gotta write the checks and everything. So this is really just to recoup our cost of processing the refund.
Our cost is only $5.
Well, that's what we've figured that just to be a reasonable amount. So make it simple, $5 on under 100, $10 on anything over 100. And we might want to look at some point when we're talking about, well, actually, it really doesn't matter because it's what it is, and this way it just gives us something. But we'll look at it and see if it does become, more onerous, we might be able to raise it. But right now, we think that's a fair number. So that's it with the Finance Committee. Anything else from my colleagues on the committee? Now that I remember who was there, I wasn't there in face, I was there on phone, so that's why.
That's
Sorry.
why you couldn't read body language.
Okay, yes. Motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Question. We didn't actually get the November 5th one yet, did we?
You didn't approve it at the last meeting, so I have it listed again, and your comments were inserted, and I passed it on to the Township Committee as to what the comments were.
Oh, then I must have missed it. Okay.
Yeah, we got a set of
It's an
comments. Are we attaching as an addendum?
Yeah.
No, they were inserted, we went back and inserted them right in,
Okay, we didn't get that, but
we didn't see
we
No,
got
no,
the,
I only forwarded you what
Yeah.
Mr. Brownlee sent to me.
Right.
Just so you could see it.
I paper clipped it to the
Okay.
November
All right,
5th.
as long as it's in,
It's
that's
there.
fine.
It's
Okay.
there. Even the negative stuff you said about us is there.
If you would all
And I
like
circled that too.
if you would like a complete,
No,
No,
I'm cool.
I
I'm
just
cool.
wanted to make sure that they had a chance to
Absolutely.
see it and
Yeah,
they
we
were all
did.
okay. Okay.
We did. So we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee,
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes, but I'm abstaining on any minutes for November 17th.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you. We'll have our second public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the Township Committee? Okay, we'll close that. Reports from departments. We received the construction code official reports for September and October. And administrative reports. Mr. Manning.
Yes, I have 3 comments. One is I forwarded you a grievance received from the PBA, and you've had a chance to read it and question me about it. I'm wondering if you want to decline to hear the grievance, which would be a denial of the grievance and allows the grievance to proceed forward to its next step.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second, everybody's looking at me.
Any discussion?
Guilty feelings. Mark.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brownlee?
Yes.
Mrs. Larrier?
Yes.
Ms. Leventhal?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mayor DeLuca?
Yes, thank you.
Next is we have 2 boxes for the PBA, our local PBA is collecting with the Armed Force Reserves, Toys for Tots. We have 2 boxes here. If anyone would like to donate a toy for a child, it's to be unwrapped and new, and they can just place it in the boxes, and they will be collecting them, I think, around the 19th. And the third is, now that, the weather's getting bad, or could get bad, We want to make sure that people have updated their information on our website in terms of our email blasts and our Code Red. So if you haven't done that, or you've recently changed your email address, your home address, or just moved in, telephone number, etc., please go on to those two sites on the upper right-hand corner of our website, www.maplewoodnj.org, and take care of that so you can be in the loop. Any questions?
Just, Mr. Manning, you and I had a conversation today about animal control, and you're meeting with South Orange to talk about how to move forward?
Right, we're having a phone conference tomorrow, yes. And I'll make a report to you through an email or some way, and then it'll be up next meeting for further discussion and consideration.
If we were to go in any direction that we have discussed in the past, we'd be able to do that in plenty of time on the December 16th meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, and since you really can't, it would probably happen where we'd have a resolution on the meeting of the 1st to actually execute the contract. Since it's a contract going into a future year, I don't think you can do that. But yes, it's timely enough.
Okay. Mr. Desiderio? Oh, Ms. Fritzen?
Couple quick things. I had sent information to the Township Committee just to inform you that the State of New Jersey Division of Taxation will be conducting a auction of an ABC license, and that's going to be on December 10th, right here in this building. So if you have any questions, it's the Highland Place license, and it's a plenary retail consumption license. Any questions? The original minimum was $50,000, and it's been raised to $300,000, which I feel is fair market value for the Township of Maplewood restaurants. My other item is getting prepared for our annual reorganization meeting on New Year's Day, and that meeting will begin at 12 noon sharp.
Any questions for Ms. Fritzen? Okay, we'll close the administrative reports are done. We'll go to reports from elected officials. Mr. Brownlee.
So I'll be having my office hours on Tuesday, November 9th from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. at the Hilton branch of the Maplewood Memorial Library. That's my report.
Thank you. Leventhal.
Two things, Mayor. Just to mention that Sustainable Jersey rolled out the schools sustainability actions in our district. I received word back from them today that they are looking into it. They're going to participate in webinars, and this is done on a school-by-school basis, but a resolution from the Board of Education would be needed in January. So they are seriously examining it, which is good news. Also, the Essex County Public Works Advisory Council met last week, and there's two pieces of information and something to be dealt with. The county will be doing on-site inspections for state DEP of local public works departments. This probably won't happen until the summer, and they are available in advance for consultation. Also, we will need a resolution to appoint Mr. Calvin Bell as our voting member from Maplewood to the Solid Waste Advisory Council. Ms. Fritzen has dealt with this in the past,
Yeah,
but it does need to be a resolution. I don't think we've done that in the past, but I actually questioned it at the meeting, and they said yes. So there's a new administration there, so things are done, I guess, a little differently. So, but I'd like to ask then that Mr. Desiderio and Ms. Fritzen work together to get that.
You want it out for the next meeting?
Yes, we can have it for the next week.
Probably a good one to do on the first of the year, because it sounds like it's an annual appointment. We won't lose track of it. Keep it on the first of the year agenda.
You won't have any meeting between now and the end of the year. No, SWAC won't have a
No,
meeting.
SWAC doesn't. It doesn't meet again until January. But okay, however we want to do that. But just to know that it's not their intent to do it at the beginning of the year, but it is their intent to have, I've been the representative and the Public Works Director done at the same time. However, we can't do that this time, so, right. Okay.
I'm making a note.
Mr. Ryan,
I have no report.
want to tell us about your trip? No.
I'll tell you all about it if you like, but they have different words for everything in that country. It's
I'm sure
amazing.
they do. Have a beer. Is that the same?
Yeah,
Okay. Mrs. Larry?
No report, sir.
Quick 5 things. My office hours are Tuesday, December 9th, 7 p.m. here. I had the opportunity and pleasure of going to the installation of Rabbi Jesse Olitsky at Congregation Bethel, and we're going to be meeting and talking about how he can get involved more in the community. He's a very young rabbi there, and it's good we have some new clergy members in town that I think will be a plus. We have, on the matter of COA, just to make sure I'm pronouncing it.
Phonetically correct.
COA, our affordable housing, COA.
What was that?
Mr. Desiderio and I have had the pleasure also of dealing with our affordable housing attorney, Mr. Serenian. And in any event, there is, those of us who are at the league and heard that there's no action on the part of the Christie administration to address COA or meet the obligations that the Supreme Court has ordered the COA board to address. There is a lawsuit. Fair Share Housing Center has filed asking the Supreme Court to really allow for builders' remedies, which means that builders can come in and build to the whatever extent they can, even though you might be protected, as we are, by a COA agreement. Essentially what the Fair Share Housing Group is saying is, since COA isn't working, since the system's broken, all those certifications, the round 3 certifications that we have and many other communities, would be thrown out. And just to give you, our information based on the COA staff is that we have a 0 requirement for new housing and a 91 requirement for rehab housing. And that's why we've been making some decisions about putting more money into rehab. If the Fair Share Housing Plan was to go forward, we would have over 1,500 requirements for new housing. 1,500 units. Yeah, I can't understand it either, but that's what our attorney is telling us, is that difference would be just this astronomical number.
That's almost like 15% of our
Yes.
households.
Even more, actually, yeah. Yeah, it's just, so, in any event, we have been, he filed on behalf of one municipality, and we have been working with him to make sure that we're aware of what's going on. I did see him at the league, our attorney at the league. He feels that the courts should order COA to do its job, and COA should just do its job. And what the lawsuit is to ask the Supreme Court not to allow builders' remedies to go forward, not to throw out everything, but to force COA to do what it's to do. We're at loggerheads here, and I think the anticipation of a presidential campaign is fueling this, because it's a good thing when you can say I fought the Supreme Court and their unfunded mandate type things and all that. So I don't know where this is going. Our attorney is on it, and we'll monitor that. My last 2 items. This Thursday night we have another meeting of the Mayor's Council on the Rollway River. There's actually been some movement on appropriation. Yeah, things are flowing. Yes, and there might be some possibilities of getting some funding, if not in 2015, certainly in the 2016 budget. We'll see. It's a touch and go, and it's going to be a lot of changes come January 5th when new Congress is sworn in. Will be a new memorandum of agreement among the towns. We talked last time, our contribution to this will be about $5,000. And Milburn will again be the lead agency, as it was last time, and we'll move forward with that. But I think things are good. We're going to be meeting with the Orange mayor, talk about the proposal to use the Orange Reservoir. So things have been moving fairly well there. And lastly, Mr. Brownlee and I went to a session at the League on liquor licenses. And there is some, I don't want to say momentum, but there's maybe some growing traction to really look at liquor licenses and what is a fair way to grow them based on a system that is antiquated. It's, based on population now, and it really has outpriced the ability of restaurants, small restaurants, to open up. And it was quite interesting because when you hear from developers and some of the people who are speaking there, and also I spoke to a couple restaurant people who tell me that the younger generation is not into this BYOB stuff. It's sort of an old thing. Now people like to go where they can order a drink. And you told the story of that. But I think, there are restaurants, and I think in the downtown development sphere, there are people who are saying there's got to be some changes in the way a liquor license is obtained, because restaurants are just not going to be able to afford, like in our community, even at an auction, $300,000. It's going to go higher than that. There's one on the market right now for $500,000. No one is going to be able to spend that kind of money and be successful. And so I've spoken a bit to Mayor Jackson of Montclair, who has kind of spearheaded this a little bit, and we're going to be meeting and talking a little bit about how we can move this forward. So,
Did they say anything about, the issue of, the people who are opposed, who like the status quo because they've invested $500,000 in a license that will suddenly be dramatically undervalued? How do you fix that?
A lot of the conversation was about, well, how do you quote unquote compensate those who have an equity, a substantial amount of equity, and the fact that they've got an existing license, and if you just open it up, well, now this license that's really worth something, that might be my retirement asset, now is depreciated greatly in value. And how do we open it up while simultaneously, in a sense, fairly compensating those who've made this substantial investment?
Did anybody have an answer?
No, there were no answers.
Well, there were a couple of proposals about a portion of the fee would go into a pool to compensate people. In some ways, when the electric utilities were deregulated, this whole notion of stranded assets, which is essentially what you're talking about. How do you deal with an asset that's no longer needed or no longer has value because you've made some public policy change that devalues it?
Right.
And there might be a way where you create a pool where you allow people to be compensated, because I think you're right. What we heard is that the most valuable thing in a tavern or in a restaurant that has a liquor license is the liquor license. It's more valuable than the business.
I was on the League Legislative Committee for a couple of years, and at least once a quarter, some legislation would come up about changing this. Mm-hmm. And it was like, you could repeat, after you heard the same conversation 3 times, you could repeat it. It would, somebody would say what I just said about the licenses, and somebody would talk about compensation, and somebody would claim it was a taking, and that you couldn't do it, and until you break that cycle, we're just going to keep having that conversation. Right?
There was one speaker, I don't want to belabor the point, but there was one speaker who did speak to the fact that, well, but is this, in a sense, another example of a marketplace change? Someone had a hardware store and now Home Depot came in and put them out of business. That was their investment and now it's depreciated in value, but there's no compensation that's being given to them about that. A bookstore that's now been essentially put out of business because there's a Barnes and Noble that's opened up. Now, they did argue that, okay, but there's a license here, so there's something that's qualitatively different about this scenario, but you can kind of see a little of both.
Well, I mean, it's a government action that, you know, if you bought an asset for $500,000 and then government takes an action to not make that license scarce and suddenly those actions are worth $100,000, it's not a change in the market, it's a specific action that government took to change the value of your asset, right?
No, I'm saying this.
But, you know, there was a story in the paper just this week about the Uber cabs.
Yeah.
And how the introduction of the cabs have devalued the medallions in New York City. And in
Right.
some ways, by the government not taking any action to prevent the Uber cabs from going forward, or
Right.
being able to operate, they've allowed the devaluation of the medallions.
Right.
And there's a big issue in, like, particularly, I think in New York they're still playing around, but in Chicago, the mayor there, Rahm Emanuel, is a big proponent of the Uber this and Uber that, and, you know, whatever. So, you know, it's a big issue.
Sounds like telephone deregulation not taking action allowed MCI to exist for many years. Yeah.
I mean, there's no simple
Right.
answer is the bottom line, and, you know, there's different things that were proposed, but nothing, this is what we're going to do.
I think
it
what we'll
certainly
do is we'll
lowers-
get everybody in a room, have a few drinks, and work it out.
I mean, it really
I
lowers.
will not be there.
But the interesting thing is, it really does lower the barrier to entry for new restaurants.
Right.
And in a town like ours, where we're talking about being a restaurant destination,
Right.
relaxation of the regulations on liquor licenses could really help us.
I talked to a restaurant owner in Montclair that we've been talking about for here, and he says, look, I can't compete without a liquor license, and I can't afford a liquor license.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Even in Montclair, it's the same thing. It's $500,000 or maybe even more.
Yeah, I did find that intriguing that in a lot of cases they said that the liquor license is where you make the money, you know, and I found that kind of intriguing, you know, it goes back to some of the discussions we've had, you know, my thoughts on alcohol, if you would, so I find that whole idea kind of intriguing.
Markup on drinks is a lot better
There's
than
no way to
markup on
make
a steak.
money unless you sell alcohol, okay.
I used to have a liquor license in New York. Let me tell you how the markup is incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Well, you know what a six-pack of beer costs, and, you know, you pay for a bottle of
No,
beer
I
in a
don't.
bar.
What, at 87
Oh, Marlon,
cents?
let's go for a few drinks.
All
to talk
right,
about it.
okay. So, if there's nothing else, let's get a motion to adjourn and
It's so
come back
moved.
here on December 16th.
So moved.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.